Blocks, the grand event for any TV channel. As soon as they found out branding was important, they started gathering their most popular shows together and playing them back to back under a special name, so you were enticed to spend your night watching all of them in order. Cartoons were no stranger to this, especially in the 90s, and that's where Cartoon Fridays comes into the discussion. Usually. I've wondered why, even though Nickelodeon was always the more popular channel, their direct competition to CCF isn't remembered as well, and to do that, we need to see how Nicktoons used to be presented. Way back when they started in 1991, the Nicktoons were confined to a 90-minute block on Sunday mornings, a half hour for each show. But as they grew more popular, they started to air throughout the afternoon, and in Ren and Stimpy's case, on the Saturday night block Snick. Then in 1996, they expanded to weekday afternoons with the final season of Rocko's Modern Life, and the first seasons of Hey Arnold and Kablam. This would go through a few brandings over the years, including the Nickelodeon, and finally, SpongeBob became their first Saturday morning cartoon in 1999. So by the end of the decade, you could watch Nicktoons almost whenever you wanted, except for Friday night. That's where Cartoon Network seized its opportunity to make it into the big leagues. Cartoon Fridays would begin on June 11th, 1999, and continue for 8 years. It fell into place for them. It wasn't a school night, primetime was a high risk and reward time to air your show, even on cable, and Nickelodeon wasn't prioritizing it. So the cartoons had a permanent home for premieres. Ed, Edd n Eddy, the Powerpuff Girls, Courage, Dexter, Johnny, Time Squad, Jack, Billy and Mandy, Kids Next Door, Foster's, Laszlo, Class of 3000, all your favorite Cartoon Network series aired on Friday nights for a very long time. So eventually, Nick had to claim their stake in those time slots, to be as direct of a competitor to Cartoon Network as possible. The very first day of any form of Friday Night Nicktoons as a place for premieres was January 5th, 2001, and they would mostly use 8 to 10 PM to air new episodes of Rugrats, Hey Arnold, and later The Fairly OddParents and Invader Zim. But every other contemporarily supported Nicktoon was welcome to appear, like the Wild Thornberrys, SpongeBob, and Rocket Power. It's got the star power and variety, but not the right hook, not the right pizzazz.
Yeah, sure, but where's the pizzazz?
Huh?
Look at this place. I mean, what is the theme here? Underwater? It's boring!
So Friday Night Nicktoons was quietly retired in August and replaced by Totally Twisted Telly on September 7th, themed after wacky things? No idea if this was referencing anything in particular, but it was working. Ratings for the first night? Good. Ratings for the second night? Overshadowed by 9/11 coverage. And the block now had a consistent set of mainstays, SpongeBob, The Fairly OddParents, Invader Zim, and Kablam, with But Ugly Martians coming in November. So that's why this is Totally Twisted. Not necessarily a bad lineup. You've got the two newest Nicktoons, their new most popular, and a home for some of their less popular ones. But the block would only last to the end of 2001. In February would come Friday Night Party with the Nicktoons. No special branding, just more SpongeBob, OddParents, and Zim, with the fourth ranger now being Chalk Zone. Again, not a bad lineup, but a pretty rigid one now. It was often just SpongeBob and the Fairly OddParents for an hour each, and they only spent one night on two other shows, Rugrats and Hey Arnold. But July 12th opened with the promise of a bigger, bolder future.
From the Nicktoon Animation Studio in Hollywood.
I'm gonna be moaning about this block for a while, but I want to bring attention to how amazing this intro is. Compared to Cartoon Fridays characters running around singing off-key, this is a way cooler way to thrust you into the world of the Nicktoons. Also set in a big studio where all the characters interact, this animation building is way more colourful and filled with activity. But here's where you run into the big problem with Friday Night Nicktoons. Nearly everyone you see in this intro is background fodder. Their shows never aired, and were probably never planned to. Friday Night Nicktoons began with almost the same schedule as Friday Night Party, SpongeBob, Chalk Zone, The Fairly OddParents, and Invader Zim, but Zim's slot was now shared by Oh Yeah Cartoons. Then Jimmy Neutron was added on September 6th, removing Zim and Oh Yeah altogether, and this is how it stayed for 11 months, when My Life as a Teenage Robot premiered on August 1st, 2003, knocking SpongeBob out of the schedule. The animation studio incarnation of Friday Night Nicktoons is the most popular, but it ended on February 27th, 2004, just 19 months after starting. I wish I was kidding, they only showed 7 shows for 19 months, when Nickelodeon had 15 running or yet to finish shows in that time. Compare this to Cartoon Network, who showed over a dozen of their cartoons, nearly all of which got new episodes. I'm just thinking about all the Nicktoons that had ceased production but didn't get the chance to finish airing on such an important night, being burnt off with zero fanfare across 2004. And as for the 5 shows they aired through a majority of the block's run, a few of them were poor choices. SpongeBob was being shown all the time throughout the day on Nickelodeon by mid-2002, and its popularity was growing exponentially, so if they wanted to air a new episode, they'd hype it up and give it a safer time slot. And production on SpongeBob went on hiatus in the summer of 2002 so work on the movie could begin, so Nick had a finite amount of new episodes to show anyway, just 10 half hours. And Chalk Zone, bless them for trying with it at first, but until season 2 premiered in May 2003, it only had 6 episodes. 6 episodes which they kept playing for a year. Any wonder audiences lost interest in it? The Fairly OddParents and Jimmy Neutron thrived on the block though. They were still producing new episodes throughout 2002 and 2003, and at a quick enough pace to stay relevant.
I will live!
My Life as a Teenage Robot was also a welcome later addition, but episodes took so long to finish that it ended up dooming the show ratings-wise. I still really like it, but come on, look at all the shows you've got in the background. Surely you'd like to burn some of them off here, no? It's like Friday Night Mark II had the exact opposite pros and cons of Mark I. Excellent branding, but poor variety. I love these bumpers, even if the animation's a bit off depending on the character. You throw these characters into a big, bustling studio like this, and they're bound to find something to do. Maybe reference Friends. I can see Zim as Monica and vice versa. They don't talk like the cartoons, but you've always got the Nicktoons Summer Beach House for that. And for primitive CG, these backgrounds have a certain charm to them. The logo's pretty nice too, a bit bolder and more detailed than you'd be used to in this more minimalist era of Nickelodeon branding, but big and bold makes it stick out. While Friday Night Nicktoons initially ended in February 2004, it would reappear a few times throughout the rest of the year under different brandings. A more stable run from September to December used imagery and bumpers similar to the Nicktoons network at the time, and featured a few more faces like All Grown Up and Danny Phantom, as well as the return of Hey Arnold and SpongeBob. But we've got a classic case of too little too late. They blew their chance with the best possible branding. After ending for good on December 17th, 2004, Nick would still air some of their shows on Friday nights until November 17th, 2006. But the branding didn't have the same punch to it as before. For a long time, there wasn't even dedicated branding. But it didn't matter to Nick. They beat Cartoon Network in the ratings all the time, no matter what they showed. They say ratings aren't important, but underwhelming ratings can be. They back networks into a corner and make them think of ways to bring viewers back in. For a very long time, Nickelodeon never had to deal with that pressure, but it still would have been good for them to rival their competitors instead of coast on the really big franchises they stumble upon. When it comes to Cartoon Network Fridays, I miss it. When it comes to Friday Night Nicktoons, I want to miss it.
It's Friday Night Nicktoons, tomorrow night starting at 8, 7 Central. Only on the First Kids Network, Nickelodeon.
Bye-bye!